Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. Jason Crosby on Playing with Jackson Brown.
In 2021, you played a show on July 30th at the United Center in Chicago, and you were playing with Jackson Brown. Now, this was right after, I guess, quarantine had started to lift and all that. Had
Yep.
you been playing with Jackson Brown before? Or was that your first time in his band?
That was my first show playing in his band, actually, at the United Center. Yeah.
Did the whole tour with him?
Yeah, that was the first show, and it went all the way through New Zealand, which was the end of April, so about a month ago. And
Wow.
yeah, it was quite a long tour.
It was for his new album. Was the set list mostly based around that, or did we get all the hits too?
It was a combination, yeah. Downhill from Everywhere, which I played on a track of. My origins with Jackson started in 2018, 2019 when I was playing with Jenny Lewis, and he was a special guest with her for her record release in LA, and that's when we met, and we also knew each other through the guys in Dawes, and we started getting together in late 2019 and early 2020, and I ended up playing on a track on his record, and he asked me if I would join his band. The first week of March 2020 is when he asked me, and I said, obviously, I said yes. And then a week later, the lockdowns and shutdown happened. So then fast forward to July 21, that was actually when we kicked it off.
You mentioned Jenny Lewis, and we've
Yeah.
Jackson Brown. And then you work with Phil, you work with O'Teal, wide range of artists across many genres. How do you approach working with different musicians and adapting your style into their various musical contexts?
Well, it's definitely it's something I have to think about. It's not just something that I can just be like, oh, like, just sit down and play. I do give it some thought because they are so different, not just in the musical style, but what is expected from me in my role with them, even if it's the same instrument. Like playing with someone like Jenny or Jackson, you're playing parts from a record that are important. Some of them are really important to setting up the singer or setting up the next part, and they can't really be deviated from the way somebody like Phil would expect you to and not want you to play the part from the record.
Right.
So it's and people like Jenny and Jackson may have a specific request where Jackson more so than Jenny because his music goes back so far, where his songs from the 70s or 80s or whatever time period has evolved into the 2020s, where it's like, yeah, that was what was on the record, but I'm doing it this way now, or I want to hear something like this, or so it's not that Jackson is rigid to the record, but he is rigid to the arrangement that is currently in place. So and Jenny, I think is similar to that, and I think and it's not unsimilar to probably a lot of bands in that category. If you
Right.
want.
Did he do Lawyers in Love when you played
Yeah.
with him?
Oh,
Good. I love that song.
No,
Oh, he didn't?
no,
Okay. It's
no.
such 80s cheese, but I love it. I think it's just fantastic.
Well, if you saw, I think we did Somebody's Baby at that show,
Okay.
which is the same record, right?
Right, yes.
Same era.
Do you ever play violin? Did you I mean, I guess I've seen with Phil you've played violin maybe, but how often do you get to play violin?
Well, when I played with John McLaughlin on that Mahavishnu thing in 2017, I had to play a lot of violin on that. So I spent a lot of, and I had a year to practice. So I would say 2016, 17, 18, I was pretty
In time.
hardcore into the violin at that point, and playing a lot at gigs and at home. Um, it kind of comes and goes depending on the gig, you know. I do a lot of violin. I do a lot of recording sessions on violin, so I'm playing. Um, uh, and I've actually started using my old classical violin, which is from 1899, that I grew up on. And it was actually O'Teal that and Jackson that kind of brought this violin back in. Initially, Jackson, because he doesn't like anyone to have just one of anything. So I have my 6-string violin, which is what I always play. And he's like, "Well, what's your backup?" Like, and I was like, "I don't have a backup." So I got my old violin from 1899 refurbished, got a pickup put on it, and ready to be used again. And then brought it around the world with Jackson and never used it. Because my original instrument was fine. And then I went to Iceland with O'Teal, and we were doing strings on his record, which I think is going to come out this fall, of these Garcia Hunter ballads that O'Teal made a record of Garcia Hunter ballads.
Right.
And we were putting strings on that. And he noticed that I had two, because I have a double case. Because when I went on tour with Jackson and added the second violin, I bought a case that I could bring both of them in one case. And I was like, "This is my old 1899 original." He's like, "Well, we got to use that too." So we ended up using both violins on the record, and it ended up being a really great added special sauce. And so ever since then, I've been now using because it's a 4-string, so it sounds different than the 6-string. So now on recording sessions, I've been using a combination of the 4 and the 6, and it gives it this, bigger sound. And,
Sounds like a whole string section all of a sudden, huh?
Yeah. So then I went and told Jackson that. He's like, "Oh, well, I want to hear what that sounds like on 4 Dancer." And so now, now I'm using the 4 and the 6 with Jackson to, now he has something else to hear, because he likes, Jackson's amazing in how particular he can, and how in the weeds he gets in his songs. I mean, I guess there's a reason why he's a 50-year vet and in the Hall of Fame, is because he's mastered his craft. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the violin these days.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.